Hello, good evening. Welcome. This is Ghana Tonight. We're live from Abata Desa Wakanda. Also live on 3FM 92.7. I am Alfred Ocansey. Tonight, we're getting to matters as has been unfolding over the last at least 3 hours. More trouble for the embattled former Chief Justice Geto Daraba Sabatokono as the Economic and Organized Crime Office, UNGA, has been petitioned to investigate her. We'll dissect this matter, bring you details of what exactly the petitioner is asking of UNGA. Stay with us. Also, the National Intelligence Bureau Coordinator, Richard Jakpa, is in the news again. He was accused, the second accused, in the ambulance trial involving the Finance Minister, Dr. Kasiela Toforsing. He has dragged the former Attorney General, Godfred Yeboah-Dame, to the Criminal Investigations Department, CID of the Ghana Police Service, accusing the former Attorney General of fabricating evidence in that matter. We're going to unpack this matter. Stay with us on Ghana Tonight. Also, still on the frontiers of the legal matters, Majority Chief Whip and Member of Parliament for the South Dai constituency, Nelson Roxon Echedapiamepo, and two others, as private legal practitioner Israel Tete and the Ghana Law Society, have filed a writ at the Supreme Court challenging the exclusive recognition of the Ghana Bar Association in Ghana's legal and constitutional framework. We've got this particular one on our hands. As always, you're an integral part of this conversation in the next 60 minutes. Connect with us on Facebook and on X and on YouTube. This is Ghana Tonight. Let's settle for Ghana Briefs.
Lands and Natural Resources Minister Emmanuel Amakofi-Boa says government will soon declare forest reserves and water bodies security zones to stop illegal mining. The new measure, many believe, is in reaction to calls to declare a state of emergency in Galamsey areas. The Minister for Land and Natural Resources, Emmanuel Amakofi-Boa, has this to say.
One is the policy reform. One is the stakeholder engagement. One is to deal with the water. One is to strengthen enforcement. All of these things that I'm talking about, why did we establish the Blue Water Guards? And now, just in the last week or so, the president has made it very clear that we are moving a step that says that all the water bodies and the forest reserves are going to be national security zones.
The minority in parliament is raising red flags over what it calls a blatant constitutional breach, accusing government of secretly agreeing to accept non-Guinean deportees from the United States without parliamentary approval. The group is also demanding the immediate suspension of the agreement, as it raises pressing concerns over sovereignty, security and policy. Ranking member on the Foreign Affairs Committee, Samuel Abu-Jinapor, is as a result asking government to halt the implementation of the agreement until it is ratified by Parliament.
The fact that we, the minority members on the Foreign Affairs Committee, had to learn of this development in the media is very disturbing and is consistent with attempts by the executive to disregard the other arms of government. Parliamentary ratification is required for the implementation of any such agreement. In operationalizing the agreement with the United States without parliamentary ratification is a direct constitutional violation of Article 75 and an affront to the authority of the Supreme Court.
Majority Chief Whip and MP for South Dai Roxon Nelson Dapiamepo, private legal practitioner Israel Tete, and the Ghana Law Society have filed a writ at the Supreme Court challenging the exclusive recognition of the Ghana Bar Association GBA. They argue that the GBA, being a private voluntary group, should not be treated as the sole representative body of lawyers. The plaintiffs are seeking 7 declarations, including an interpretation of references to the Ghana Bar Association in the Constitution and the Legal Profession Act as generic terms. They contend that giving exclusive status to one private body violates constitutional rights to equality and freedom of association under Article 17 and 21, Section 1, Section E. The Ghana Police Service has dismantled a criminal gang linked to the killing of some police officers and a series of armed robberies at rural banks across 5 regions. 10 suspects have been arrested and 14 weapons, including AK-47 rifles stolen from police officers, have been recovered. Inspector General of Police Christian Tete Yohunu announced the arrest during a press conference at the National Police Headquarters on Wednesday, September 24.
Operation over the past year, the service recorded a number of robberies targeting financial institutions, particularly rural banks. My team and I, after analyzing these robberies, observed a similar pattern. We immediately got to work. After painstaking investigations, working with credible informants, analyzing available data, surveillance across several regions, we launched a targeted operation to arrest these criminal elements.
The Vice President, Professor Jane Nana Pokwajiman, is urging staff at the Ministry of Education to demonstrate patience and empathy when engaging with frustrated parents and students over the ongoing school placement challenges. She made the call during a visit to the ministry in Accra.
I know you are doing your school placement and you have all kinds of people besieging, if not your offices, your homes, your phones, and all of them. What can we do? Let's just try very politely to explain the situation. What we tried to do then was to create more A schools with the E-blocks.
China-Ghana practical cooperation has been steadily reinforced. China remains Ghana's largest trading partner and a major source of foreign investments. In 2024, bilateral trade reached an unprecedented high of $11.8 billion, marking a year-on-year growth of 7.1%. Chinese universities have established 3 Confucius Institutes in partnership with the University of Ghana, the University of Cape Coast, and Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology to study Chinese language, according to the director of the Confucius Institute at the University of Ghana, Professor Jimin Wang.
Because of the world trade collaboration or the globalization of the world, the relationship between, especially the economic relationship between these 2 countries, are growing quickly. And as President Xi has put emphasis on the relationship of the 2 countries, now more chances are presenting itself for people of both countries.
It's more news on 3news.com. Make some time and visit 3news.com. This is Ghana Tonight. We're live on 3FM 92.7, also on TV3 Ghana on Facebook and on YouTube. We're also live on X and on YouTube as well on 3 News. So there are many ways you can connect with us here on Ghana Tonight. Also live on 3FM 92.7. As always, probably brought to you by Flamingo Paint, Simply Superior, Sasso Insecticide Spray and Coil, Tum Precom. Coming up next here on Ghana Tonight, the wills of the former Chief Justice is not ending anytime soon because the private legal practitioner, James Alfredo, has petitioned the Economic and Organized Crime Office for the arrest and prosecution of the former Chief Justice. Gertrude Araba Saki Tokono for misuse of public funds and willfully causing financial loss to the state. Now, exactly why are we going on this particular path, and why is he knocking on the doors of Economic and Organized Crime Officers IOCO to look into this matter relating to the former Chief Justice? And here's the reason why. As we do know, it is the Daniel Ofori petition out of the three that the committee that was established to hear the petitions against the Chief Justice established the issue of stated misbehavior. In fact, there were 21 allegations of misbehavior captured in Daniel Ofori's petition and 4 allegations of incompetence. Now, here's what we do know. Just a summary of the number of stated acts of misbehavior, which is one of 3 grounds that the justice or a chief justice or a justice of Superior Court can be removed as enshrined in Article 1461 of the 1992 Constitution. This is it. It counted out 21 of them. The misappropriation of over 337,000 on foreign travels, arbitrarily reassigning cases between judges, dismissed judicial staff over minor offenses, unreasonably fast-tracked opinion versus speaker hearing, ordered national security to seize high court computers, and so many other things that were cited in this said petition by Daniel Ofori, which was the basis on which stated misbehavior was established against the former Chief Justice, and the recommendation by the 5-member committee to have her removed, which has been acted upon by the president. But then again, this private legal practitioner who has petitioned IOCO is coming under the law of causing financial loss to the state. And the petition for the arrest and prosecution of the former Chief Justice, the petitioner is asking IOCO to do a number of things. And his request is based on the following facts. That, and this we're capturing directly from the petition that the petitioner sent to IOCO. We have exclusive copy of this petition by the petitioner to IOCO on the matter of his call for the arrest and prosecution of the former Chief Justice Gertrude Araba Saki Tokono. This is exclusive to us here on Ghana Tonight, and this is it. He's basing his demand on the fact that Her Ladyship Gertrude Araba Saki Tokono, while serving as the Chief Justice and head of the Judicial Service of Ghana, willfully or negligently misapplied public funds when she used funds belonging to the Judicial Service to pay for her husband's travel with her to Tanzania in 2023, as well as paying him per diem for the duration of the private holiday trip, contrary to Section 96, 1C and D of the Public Financial Management Act 2016, Act 921. Also, that Her Ladyship Justice Gertrude Araba Saki Tokono, while serving as the Chief Justice and head of the Judicial Service of Ghana, willfully or negligently misapplied public funds when she used funds belonging to the Judicial Service to pay for her daughter's travel with her to the United States of America, as well as paying her per diem for the entire duration of the private holiday trip, contrary to Section 96, 1C and D of the Public Financial Management Act 2016, Act 921. Also, that Her Ladyship Justice Gertrude Araba Saki Tokono, while serving as the Chief Justice and head of the Judicial Service of Ghana, willfully caused financial loss to the state when she used funds belonging to the Judicial Service to pay for her husband's travel with her to Tanzania in 2023, plus the said per diem for the entire duration of that particular trip. And in fact, it goes on to ask quite a number of things as well from the IOCO, specific emphasis on the per diems and the trips by the former Chief Justice with her husband and her daughter. That's the basis for this petition for the arrest and prosecution of Gertrude Araba Esabatu-Kono. That's what the petition essentially is asking of the Economic and Organized Crime Office, IOCO. And the petitioner, who has petitioned IOCO to arrest and prosecute the former Chief Justice, is joining us on Zoom right now. He's a private legal practitioner as well, James Alfredo. Counsel, good evening. Thank you for joining us here on Ghana Tonight.
Good evening, Alfred. Thanks for having me.
First off, I mean, when we got this exclusive detail and put it out there, the sentiment is that really, to what end? She's been removed as Chief Justice on the basis of the stated misbehavior, which includes this misappropriation that you reference, that 337,000. And so, why are you piling up more trouble for her, going to IOCO to ask IOCO to arrest and prosecute her?
Well, very well. The first issue is that regardless of the outcome of the Constitutional Committee's proceedings, which led to her removal, the committee actually found as a fact that there was misappropriation of public funds or misapplication of public funds. And in the committee's words, from the letter that was sent to her secretly by His Excellency the President through his secretary, and which her ladyship decided to send to court, which has now become a public document, the committee stated that her behavior as the head of the judiciary in using those funds to pay for her husband and her daughter's private holiday was unlawful and against any law or policy. And under the Public Financial Management Act, which regulates all public sector institutions, any such conduct as this, which resulted in a loss to the state, is a crime which is punishable under the law separately from whatever has happened leading to her removal from office. So the fact remains that the monies that were spent on those trips were public funds which needs to be recovered for the state. So that is the basis of the petition which I've sent to the IOCO.
The cloud, or you are coming under the power of the law on causing financial loss to the state. Exactly why is that?
Yeah, so if you read those provisions of the law, it gives you the elements that needs to be satisfied before a public officer could be held under those laws. And my argument is that if you look at the findings of the committee, clearly the decision to use those funds for those purposes were willful. And for that matter, the misapplication itself was also willful. And so it fits perfectly under those two provisions of law. That is why I decided to go under those laws for the IOCO to conduct its own investigation. And once they lay hands on the committee's full report, they'll get the justification as to why she needs to be brought in for under these two laws, and for that matter, held accountable for it.
I mean, to the extent that this matter, as you referenced, was captured in the petitions that were looked into by the committee. In fact, it is on the basis of one of them, right? This Daniel Ofori petition captured the misappropriation that you talk about, the references that you make, right? It is on the basis of this same Daniel Ofori petition that she was removed. I mean, is this a matter of double jeopardy, you would say?
No, it's not. It's not a matter of double jeopardy. What happened before the committee was essentially an administrative process. a disciplinary process. So what happens is that once the committee found adversely against her that an offense against the Public Financial Management Act has been committed, it means that there must be separate prosecution for those offenses and for her to be held accountable for those as well. Don't forget, she herself has accepted that those findings were correct. That is why in the new application that her ladyship filed in court challenging the president's removal of her as a justice of the Superior Court, she is essentially accepting that the decision to remove her as Chief Justice was correct, as recommended by the committee on those grounds, which also means that once you accept the offense or that you accept the allegation that have been leveled against you as proven, and which then justified your removal as Chief Justice, then it means that the funds that you have misappropriated, which the committee described as unlawful, you would have to be held accountable for that by a court of competent jurisdiction. It is only at that point that she can make a claim. It is only after that if any subsequent prosecution comes up, that she can make a claim about double jeopardy. But for now, that claim cannot hold water.
I see. So the end objective of you asking Iyoko to step into this matter is not for her to refund the money. You want her arrested and made to face the full rigors of the law, prosecuted for that matter.
In fact, we are asking for both, because the whole purpose is for the money that has been spent, if that money has not already been refunded to the state, to be refunded. But it does not also mean that the crime has not been committed. So she can be held separately for that as well. So my petition is basically asking for the Economic and Organized Crimes Commission office to take the first step of looking into this petition, procuring a copy of the committee's report, and once the Iyoko comes to the decision that indeed the offense under the Public Financial Management Act has been committed, and also the Criminal Offences Act has been committed, then to proceed under the fiat of the Attorney General to haul her before court for the crime. If after that Iyoko decides to recover the money, that is even better for us, because we want accountability, and that is what this is all about.
I see. Stay with me a bit, Mr. Pedro. And I also have another private legal practitioner, that's Christian Mamhesi, joining us as well. Counsel, good evening. Thank you for joining us. And you heard the petitioner. It's also your learned colleague. It's a lawyer as well. It makes the point quite clearly that to the extent that there's been misappropriation of some funds in this matter, that was the basis for the removal of the Chief Justice, the established matter of stated misbehavior. It cannot be left unattended to. That the fact that she's been removed, that should end the matter. Monies have been misappropriated, and so it has to be refunded. She has to be arrested and prosecuted. That's the demand that he's making of Iyoko. I mean, how does this strike you?
Good evening. Good evening to you, my brother, and good evening to viewers or listeners if they are also on the VFM as well. My preliminary comment, with all due respect, even though my learned colleague is definitely my colleague, I would say that it is fanciful. It is fanciful, and it attracts. It looks more dimful, as though to attract contemporary attention than what is duly necessary. And with all due respect and with humility, let me say that, yes, every person is entitled to file a petition. The purpose of this petition, just as has been explained, is for what it's intended to. Indeed, in law, it can be said that before the Article 146 committee sat, the Auditor General had conducted auditing in respect of the judicial service and had come to a certain conclusion, which conclusion never implicated the former Chief Justice of having committed a malfeasance or misappropriation of funds, which one would say that comes under the ambit of causing financial loss, under any of the ambits that the learned lawyer had petitioned under, because the primordial effect of it would be that. The second effect would now be that he would be seeking to rely his petition on that which the committee convicted the former Chief Justice on.
Yes, and is that not enough grounds for this petition to travel?
That is not enough.
The committee.
That is not enough.
Mm-hmm.
That is not enough, because indeed, if the lawyers for the former Chief Justice are seeking to wage a defense of it, indeed, the mere fact that had happened, that a committee had an adverse finding against the former Chief Justice, and that has occasioned her removal, does not necessarily mean that she has caused financial loss to the state.
Well,
and
to the extent that
a position of law.
I see.
That is a position of law that he has to prove, and he who alleges must prove. And it is not necessarily, it cannot necessarily be based on the fact that all that he is wishing to, or all that wishful thinking of his petition is based on that of the committee. It must necessarily be based on accounting evidence which can be extradited or elucidated from the judiciary, a way of auditing accounting.
Well, I want to find out
which
why.
will be corroborated with that of the committee and Article 146.
Okay.
But he cannot necessarily base it on the fact that Article 146, because a number of the things that Article 146 happened, a number of the things that Article 146 committee did are in court. So to base a petition on an unsettled matter cannot necessarily be the waging of war of causing financial loss. Oh, come on.
Which aspect do you describe? No. Which aspect do you describe as unsettled? Is it the matter that she, based on this Daniel Ofori petition, which established the grounds of stated misbehavior, that was actually the basis for her removal, that the misappropriation of the over 337,000 CDs is not established as yet?
So now, yes. So.
Are you saying that has not been established as yet?
No, wait. So there is a stated, the committee and Article 146 jettisons to say that there is a stated misbehavior. Does the stated misbehavior metamorphosize to be causing financial loss? That is a question of law. And if you are advancing your claim as a complainant in a criminal matter, and in a criminal matter, the burden on you is very unwavering to say that indeed based on that, the person has caused financial loss to the state, then you ought to establish the intention, that is the measure and the accusation, and you have a very high burden to establish that. So if the complainant, albeit the petitioner, is claiming that I have, aside the fact that Article 146 committee has established that, I have all the necessary evidence to show that indeed the former Chief Justice has satisfied all the elements to convict her for financial loss, then that is the situation. But if it is not enough, then it is merely a petition that is meant for the news portal for sensation.
I see. So, well, the petitioner is on Zoom, so he's listening to you. Counsel, hold on a bit. Hold on. Yes, indeed, you made the point, and I'll come back to you, lawyer James Apedo. Your learned colleague is making that strong argument that to the extent that these grounds are being, in fact, the reasons for her removal are being challenged, it cannot be solid enough grounds for you to go to IOCO under the law of causing financial loss to the state to demand that the former Chief Justice be arrested and prosecuted. That's the argument that he makes. James Apedo.
I don't know if you can see me. I've just had Doomsaw in my area.
But we can make do with your voice. We can hear you. Yes.
All right. So with great deference to my learned colleague, I beg to differ and disagree with him. I say so for the specific reason that in the current action that the former Chief Justice has filed before the court, she is accepting the findings of the committee leading to her removal as Chief Justice. If you read that application, she's not challenging that. She's not challenging her removal as Chief Justice. So she cannot accept that indeed she committed the offenses that the committee has actually found as proven, on the basis of which she has been removed as Chief Justice. And then on the other hand, to say that, no, I cannot be held accountable for the same reasons. The petition is a very, very simple and straightforward petition. And if counsel actually would advert his mind to section 96(1) C and D of the Public Financial Management Act, which we have made reference to, it specifically says that if a person who is a public officer and who is in control of public funds, are responsible for that, actually makes improper payment of such public funds, the offense is committed. And so he can't say that, it's not settled. It is my view that based on the law, that offense is already committed. But in any case, IOCO is an investigative body. They would invite her, they will interview her, they will look at the report of the committee and then decide whether indeed the offense, as I have stated it in my petition, is actually what the law says. And then a decision will be made on that. But to the best of my knowledge and understanding of the facts and the law, I believe that the offense is committed, and for that matter, she must be held accountable for it.
Right, and we'll see how the coming days will look like, because as you have petitioned IOCO, yes, and because I need you for the next issue as well that we're getting into. So, if yes, in 30 seconds.
Let me conclude to say that indeed, this is not a civil procedure. This is a criminal procedure, and he who alleges must prove.
Okay. And
for whatever it is worth, coming in to say that she has committed all of that, be minded that the Auditor General's report did not say that she was in control of the financial affairs, and that the accountant or
Yeah, but you know that, so this path also leads us to another aspect of the conversation as to, even if she wasn't in charge or of the financial affairs, who is the spending officer, who gives the final authority, who signs. That leads us to another conversation. That's what I'm saying, that to the extent that IOCO has been petitioned now, let's see how the coming days will look like, okay, on this. And
Okay,
whether they would have a verdict on this. And I do appreciate your understanding of this matter. Thank you. Thank you so much. Also to you, the petitioner, James Alfredo, thank you. Thank you so much for joining us here on Ghana Tonight. And we'll monitor this closely to hear what the Economic and Organized Crime Office, IOCO's response will be to this petition by James Alfredo. But this is Ghana Tonight. There's another petition, this time around, businessman Richard Jakpa, who was the second accused in the ambulance trial against Dr. Kasiel Atoforsen, who is now the finance minister, and Sylvester Anemana, has filed a petition at the CID of the Ghana Police Service accusing the former Attorney General, Godfred Yeboah-Dame, of fabricating evidence against the Finance Minister, Dr. Kasiel Atoforsen. Now, all of this, we have a copy of this petition as well here exclusively, and we're getting into it. And to be honest, this is one that has been evolving over the last 3 or 4 hours. According to Richard Jakpa, the AG Godfred, that's the former Attorney General Godfred Yeboah-Dame, solicited his cooperation to testify in a matter to incriminate Dr. Kasiel Atoforsen and to help fast-track the conclusion of the case. Here's it. It says, 1, that at the close of the prosecution's case, the High Court upheld that the Attorney General, that's the then Attorney General Godfred Yeboah-Dame, contention that a case had been made against me to answer. In fact, he goes on to indicate that the testimony to incriminate Dr. Kasiel Atoforsen, after I opened my defense, led to a phone call to me. As we know, this phone call, aspects of this phone call was made public. In fact, it was tendered in as evidence during this particular trial. It was admitted in court as evidence, as we recall. And on the 26th day of March 2024, by the learned Attorney General, when I was to appear in the High Court to continue my evidence in chief in terms of the witness statement I had filed. In the phone conversation between the then Attorney General and me, which I have attached to this petition, he suggested that during cross-examination I testified not based on matters personally perceived and understood by me, but based on his suggestions, and to skew my understanding of the issues in such a way to implicate Dr. Kasiel Atoforsen, the first accused, and to further lie to the court that I was not well by procuring a false excuse duty to that effect. Richard Jakpa, in this petition, stated that in that telephone conversation, Godfred Dame directly engaged me on the subject of the letters of credit as an Attorney General of the Republic of Ghana, and stated how he thought I should answer questions regarding the letters of credit during cross-examination, contrary to my honest understanding and knowledge of how letters of credit work. I disagreed with him, but he insisted that it should not bear any risk to me. He further said he would be traveling out of the country and not be able or to be in court, and that's at the next adjourned date, and that I seek an adjournment from the court by getting an excuse duty from a hospital to the court, that I was sick, to allow him to be present in court before I proceed with my testimony. But I declined this criminal, dishonest, and unethical suggestion from him as Attorney General then. He says that in the circumstances, he is praying that the attempt by Godfred Dame for him, Richard Jakpa, to testify in a particular way so as to dishonestly, wickedly, and without an iota of conscience implicate Honorable Dr. Kasiel Atoforsen, and to also lie to the court by procuring a false excuse duty, which constitutes a crime, that's fabrication of evidence. He wants the CID investigate this and make to face the full consequence. In fact, if found to be culpable, because this is, according to Richard Jakpa's petition, very necessary, especially when such diabolical and vicious actions an attorney general can breach the peace of the country and erode the trust that the public has in the esteemed office of the attorney general of this country. So this is what Richard Jakpa is praying of the CID, of the Ghana Police Service, to investigate and bring some expeditious consideration to the matters that he has put before the CID of the Ghana Police Service. This is one that we're keeping an eye on to see how things unfold and evolve in that matter. Now, this is Ghana Tonight. I'm going to go for this quick break. When we are back, there's a proposal to have Galamsey site rather declared as security zones instead of the state of emergency declaration that is being called upon now. How will that work? How effective will that be as against the calls for the declaration of the state of emergency? We'll be back shortly after this quick break. Stay with us.
Why are more and more professionals choosing Flamingo paint?
As an interior decorator, I aim for that beautiful, elegant look. Flamingo
Also live here on Ghana Tonight. We're live on 3FM 92.7, also on TV3 Ghana, on Facebook and on YouTube as well. Coming up, the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, that's Emmanuel Amakofeboa, has said that the next step in the fight against illegal mining is to declare all forest reserves and also water bodies as security zones. Now, this measure is the latest in the government's quest to curb the Galamsey menace, following heightened calls by stakeholders for a declaration of a state of emergency. Let's hear the minister say this. We'll have a conversation on it. Take a look.
One is the policy reform, one is the stakeholder engagement, one is to deal with the water, one is to strengthen enforcement. All of these things that I'm talking about. Why did we establish the Blue Water Guards? And now, just in the last week or so, the president has made it very clear that we are moving a step that says that all the water bodies and the forest reserves are going to be national security zones. You know what that means? It's red zone, no go. And we are now preparing to deploy permanent security forces in this area. The level of distraction that this new government came to meet, we are under no illusion that this is going to be solved in 8 months, but we are proud of what we are doing. We are seeing the progress, and at every time when we
So that's the position that the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, Emmanuel Amakofeboa, espoused on GTV earlier. Now, Richard Kumado is security analyst joining us. Mr. Kumado, good evening. Thank you for joining us here on Ghana Tonight. First of all, I want to understand exactly how different this path that government, through the minister, is taking. Instead of declaring a state of emergency, they want to rather declare these water bodies, forest reserves, where Galamsey is taking place, as security zones. What's the difference between the two?
Because we clearly mentioned, for the purposes of public education, the state of emergency is a restrictive measure, and it causes high levels of discomfort within the geographical areas. Government is being clever about it, and they are adapting other methods of getting the same results in a different manner. Now, when you declare the water bodies and the forest reserves as a security zone, the predominant action within every security zone is security operation. And it is expected that the people within the catchment area are other participants, or they are willing to observe strict adherence. Any non-conformity or non-adherence may result in some level of casualties. But because these are exclusively, or you have exclusive right to the forest and to the water bodies, it makes it a little bit far away from where you have a predominant mass activities of human beings. And what this also means is that because the minister or the president is willing and able to declare a particular forest or a water body as a security zone, it gives exclusive right to security officers, the national anti-Galamsey officers, or any other military or the police force they will bring, the forestry task force, the Gold Board task force, and all other task force in a fight against Galamsey to protect and to guide it. And they will guide it strictly that entering and exit will have to be based on strict procedure. So that is where we are. And I think if they can manage it that way, based on the geographical mappings they might have done and the security risk assessment which we have done for the past 5 years, it would have helped them to at least stop the other activities that finally resulted in the debris that fall into the water and create many of the mess we are seeing around.
And so this will involve the deployment of the military to these areas, water bodies that Galamsey is taking place on, the forest reserves where Galamsey is taking place. And so there'll be permanent military posts in these areas, correct?
Yeah, they use, my brother Felix Ofosukwati said, they have risk classified 44 zones as a high risk Galamsey zones, and they are going to put a permanent law enforcement post there. But if you understand how this terrain works, yeah, you may have a post, but it doesn't mean the same officers are going to be at the place for a very long time. They may go on routine, they may go on patrol, and they may go on routine basis. And so it depends on who is leading the operation and how they want to manage it. What is key in a security zone is a predominant feature of security activity. So all the activities, the major activities you will find around all these zones, whether they are in the forest zone or they are underwater bodies, are going to be largely controlled and managed by security forces, whether the BNI is the police or is the military, or exclusively by the National Anti-Galamsey Task Force they have formed. But then guess what? The task force we have, you know, the forestry guards are also task force in the fight against Galamsey.
Right.
Then you have the national anti-Galamsey task force.
True.
Then you have other task forces
There's
that work.
the Blue Water Guards and all the others.
Exactly.
You know.
Exactly. Then you have the Gold Board. The Gold Board task force also play auxiliary role, not just in smuggling out people who are smuggling gold out of this country, but they also work in conformity with what the national task force.
In fact, there are some municipal assemblies that also have their own task force. The small scale, the legalized or registered small scale miners have also just set up their own task force to complement the fight against Galamsey. So we have a number of things going on. But then again, you make a
you need to ask the minister, there has to be conformity. If they have conformity and they streamline it, then there will be what we call command and control, and it makes life easier for them. Other than that, we have to come back again and say some people are going out of line and they need to conform.
And I do appreciate you for this. Thank you so much. Richard Kumado is a security consultant and analyst as well, joining us here on Ghana Tonight. Before we go, as I indicated to you right from the beginning of the week, we're going to be giving you consistent daily updates of what's happening at the 80th session of the United Nations General Assembly taking place in New York in the United States. And today, just some few minutes ago, the President, John Dramani Mahama, says Ghana is open for business in the upstream and downstream sector. Again, as he sells his reset agenda to the American Chamber of Commerce. Now, speaking at an executive business roundtable event at NASDAQ, where he was welcomed with a digital billboard. We're going to put that on the screen right now. The president's welcome on that digital billboard right there in the Times Square in New York. He intimated that Ghana believes in a free market, raising it had allowed the markets to work. Now, Kamala Kluche is our man, senior president affairs correspondent. He's in New York right now and moving every step of the way with the president as we speak at the headquarters on the 42nd Street, Times Square, New York. That's where Kamala is joining us live right now on the 42nd Street, Times Square, New York. Kamala, good evening. Thank you for joining us. How's the Big Apple treating you?
Not bad, Alfred. It's been a very, very hectic day. Quite a busy day for the president and Ghana's entourage to the 80th United Nations General Assembly. Kicked off this morning with that meeting with President Ruto of Kenya, then meeting the UN Secretary General. Later on, the Minister for Foreign Affairs also had bilateral meetings and the like and all that. Then he addressed the financing, so to speak, summit, but focus was on his appearance at NASDAQ. And just like he indicated in that video that we're seeing now, where he was welcomed, it was a special announcement of him welcoming him to NASDAQ here at Times Square. And you know what it means? NASDAQ is where, the fulcrum of business is with. I mean, and this is where the American Chamber of Commerce also has its own establishment with all the businesses here. Met John Mahama, where he discussed with them, first off, how Ghana is open for business, how the climate, despite the challenges the economy has faced in recent time, is beginning to bounce back, and he's welcoming them. In fact, he made the point that there's a lot of investment in the downstream and upstream sector. He speaks about the big push agenda. He speaks about the Mahama Cares and a host of others. And the response from the businesses is to the effect that, yes, indeed, confidence is in the economy that has been led by John Mahama, and they are equally ready to do business with Ghana. The opportunity is there. Then the foreign minister also intimated that from next year, the e-visa would come into force. What it means also is that if this business investment people are coming into the country, they will not have a problem. But let's listen to what John Mahama had to say to the American Chamber of Commerce.
Bauxite, we have lithium, recently we discovered nickel and some other rare earth minerals, and so that there are opportunities in that area. There are several foreign companies working in that space, Goldfields Ghana, Newmont, and several of them all doing business successfully in Ghana. But there are also medium to small scale Ghanaian companies in the sector. We also have the oil and gas sector. The upstream, we started oil and gas production in 2010. And since then, there had been a decline because over the last 8 years, there were several disagreements between government and several of the companies operating in the oil and gas space, upstream space. He and I had litigation with a small company, and government didn't handle it well, so he and I moved their headquarters to Côte d'Ivoire and withdrew all the investments. I'm happy to say Ghana is open for business in the upstream sector. And so he and I, we have an American company, Cosmos, who are partners with Tallow in the Jubilee field, and they committed to invest another $2 billion to raise the production of the Jubilee and 10 fields. He and I has the Sankofa prospect, and they're producing oil and gas from there. And we're using much of the gas that we're receiving to produce power for electricity. So that's good. There's space for investment in the downstream.
So that's the President, John Dramani Mahama there. Kamala, earlier the President met the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres. Any idea of exactly what they spoke about? How this is the second meeting since he came into office again as President. How did it play out?
Closed door meeting, I must say, very brief. But I mean, whilst in Japan, he expressed a lot of confidence in John Mahama's administration and also the leadership role that Ghana has played when it comes to sub-region and the prevention of conflict and then the crisis on the global stage and also the continent as well as the sub-region. But tomorrow is the big day, Alfred. President John Mahama will be speaking. He will be taking his debate to the world, where he will address them at 12 Eastern Time, which will be 4 p.m. in Ghana. He is expected to speak on a wide range of issues, and we do not want to give a preemption, but we already know the position that he's held already in terms of most of the things that are happening around. And for instance, the issue also about the tariffs, the issue about the AFTA, where he's asking a lot of the businesses to partner the African countries to be able to do the business. This is what it is, and the world's attention will be on John Mahama tomorrow as he delivers that speech to the United Nations General Assembly. But across the street here in New York, there's a Times Square where we are many people keep expressing a lot of confidence in the administration of John Mahama in terms of him setting the right tone, in terms of the principles that he's put at claim for his research agenda. And we can only hope that in the days to come, many more would be the prospects that could come for Ghana.
Kamala Kluche, appreciate you for this, and thank you as always. And tomorrow we connect again on that big day, 4 p.m. Ghana time is going to be live here on TV3. The President John Dramani Mahama's address to the United Nations General Assembly, and Kamala Kluche is going to be there for us as always. Kamala, great stuff, good job, and all the best out there. Kamala Kluche is our Presidential Affairs correspondent coming to us live from the NASDAQ headquarters on the 42nd Street, Times Square, New York, the Big Apple, City of Lights. Kamala, thank you. On behalf of the team, I want to say thank you so much for joining us here on Ghana Tonight. We're back again tomorrow for another conversation. I am Alfred Ocansey. Have a good night.
Ghana Tonight.